Hey everyone, it's John Orlando from the PVD Cast, and I wanted to take a few moments of your time to let you know where you can find the PVD Cast. The online home of yours truly, PVDcast.com, is a great place to go, but it's also available through all the major podcasting platforms like Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, Spotify, etc. There's also live broadcasts of the PVD Cast every single week. Mondays 8 p.m. Eastern through the Facebook page of the PVD Cast, and Tuesdays at 7:30 p.m. through the Scene Snobs Facebook page. And no matter how you listen, please make sure you rate, review, and subscribe. And with that, I will chat at each and every one of you later.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for tuning into the Scene Snobs Network. But I'm not here to talk to you about the Scene Snobs. I'm here to talk to you about Max and Jason, Three Geeks Podcast. You will probably tune into the Three Geeks Podcast and be like, 1, 2, 3. Okay, well, there's obviously more than 3. There's like 89 million of us. We started with 3. We're like gremlins. We just keep multiplying.
Yeah, they fed us at midnight. They poured some water on us. And now it's like 78 geeks. But you can be a geek too.
If you like comedy, which we sometimes do, if you like hearing about movies, TV shows, you like hearing hot takes from Max and John, you like hearing somebody who loves most things, but when I get mad about a show, it's pretty entertaining, I gotta say. But no, with the Three Geeks Podcast, we're just a group of friends that don't talk to each other through the week, so we can have natural conversations on Sunday.
Yep.
We're like actually probably the worst group of friends because we don't ever talk to each other outside of doing podcasts. I mean, except for you and I, but that's because we're roommates. But like Three Geeks Podcast. Tune in, check us out,
and have fun.
Yes.
Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe.
Yeah. And recycle your droids.
What's up, everybody? It's Mick Manhattan, and this is the Scene Snobs channel. I am bringing to you every Monday the Replay Marathon, where we show all of last week's shows right in sequential order down the line. You can watch them all throughout the Monday and stay entertained. So make sure you're checking us out on the Facebook page every Monday, starting at 9 a.m. All right, thanks, everybody. And if you missed any of the shows, make sure you head over to thescenesnobs.com, where we have links to everything. Take care.
What's going on, everybody? It's the Scene Snob, Mick Manhattan, and I'm here to tell you guys about thescenesnobs.com. We're a channel of variety, comedy, entertainment, geek-related, sports, the whole 9 yards. We cover almost every genre. And we have so many great shows to choose from. We have shows like the Scene Snobs Podcast, BTB Podcast, The Guapo Show, the Sports Snobs Podcast, the PVD Cast, Jeff Dwoskin presents Crossing the Streams, the Three Geeks Podcast, the Fandom Effect. We probably have the only Matlock-based podcast called Matt Talk, and we're introducing new shows all the time. We have new shows coming up like the Ear Hustling Podcast, Carpool Shenanigans, and of course, from some nobodies, Twitching Upstream and Talking Upstream. So come on, check out thescenesnobs.com, enjoy it, and please leave feedback. Like, follow, subscribe us, and just let us know what you think. We love to have all the interaction. So I, again, am the Scene Snob, Mick Manhattan. Check out thescenesnobs.com. You can follow us anywhere on social media at The Scene Snob, and we will talk to you guys soon. Take care.
Hey everybody, it's CJ Graham, Jason Voorhees. That's right, Friday the 13th, Part 6. And you're listening to thescenesnobs.com.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Scene Snob interviews. I am Mick Manhattan, the Scene Snob. Thank you very much for joining us. And today, I am joined by Tasha Hardy. She is writer, producer of the new movie Curiosity coming out, and so much more. So we're going to get into it. We're going to talk about our new movie coming up, and join us now.
So my career started in Hollywood a long time ago when I was in my 20s, and I was there for about 14 years, PA and producer. But I just got overrun by being on set. I didn't really enjoy it that much, and I wanted to learn how to write. And so movie I was working on a long time ago. The script happened to be sitting on someone's chair, and how, of course, you shoot out of order. So I'd never seen the story itself, and I read it, and I was like, wow, I bet I could learn to write at least as good as this, So I started out this adventure for 10 years, wrote 11 scripts, and just decided to, I was trying to sell them for years, and I had a couple of them that were optioned, had some really good, close calls with a script that had Bryan Cranston attached to it, and actually produced a TV pilot with him in it. And just little things here and there, but over time and how the industry has changed, I think you have to have kind of like a proof of concept of something that you do yourself. So I'm like, I can't wait anymore for someone to buy my jillion dollar script. That is not reasonable. And plus I'm in Austin, Texas, which is a really cute little artsy town. But, as much as we love to think it's little Hollywood, I think every small town wants to think that,
Sure.
It's not the truth, but we're trying, right? So, so I decided to reach out. I had Bob Clendenin in mind for the lead, and I just blindly reached out to him 4 years ago and asked him if he wanted to be attached. And, from there on, it's been on and off and building and taking down, and now we're shooting on March 6th and 7th.
I love that. And so I know this is a short. How long do you think, how many pages is it, if you don't mind me asking?
It's 15 pages, and it's pulled out of the pilot and series Bible for the TV series. So it's actually an example for a series that John Lear and I are going to pitch around town, Hollywood.
All right. That's awesome. Yeah. And I did Bob Clendenin, and he's, household name. He's in everything at this point. So, it was wonderful to see that he's attached to it. He's so funny.
He really is.
And now that's awesome, though. I started out in Hollywood myself, so I definitely get why you're in Austin now. But
yeah, it's hard to, I'm pretty sure we had the nonverbal conversation of that. Yeah, not fun living there, at least, or it wasn't at the time. Maybe it's better now. But
with producing, because that was where I kind of fell into when I was going to school, and then when I got out, I wanted to follow that line. And then you said you wanted to get into writing. So how did you fall into producing? And then after that, how did you find a transition going into writing?
With the producing, I happened to know a guy who was really into Star Trek, and he said, I'm doing this fan film up in Ticonderoga, New York. And I said, well, I'll be the first AD. And then it turns out they'd already hired someone to do that up there. And so he's like, well, what about the line producer? I didn't even know what that meant. So I literally went to my computer and was like, what's the line producer do? I'm faked it all the way. It wasn't that high of a budget. It was $50,000. But, for a new person, it was terrifying, of course, especially in a different state again. And so we ended up doing a fan film, an episode of Star Trek with George Takei. And it was it was a replica of the set of the Enterprise. And the whole idea was he wanted his own series. And even though, as he's been getting older, he's like, well, I'd love to come back to Star Trek. And they never gave him a chance. So that was an example for a series as well. So that was my first job. And then I just kind of line produce little free things here and there, and just ended up saying to myself, well, I really want to only produce if it's my own work.
Mm-hmm. And how does, I can completely understand that. It's just, it's easier. And I think there's more of an enthusiasm to it. If how do you feel about that? Just taking, producing your own thing is, it's easier to get enthusiastic about, I guess I should say. But it's without being on set, is that something that, you just weren't interested in at all? Set wasn't for you, or do you like to be more into the pre-production and stay away from the production part?
I think it was more now that I think about it was more the job. ADing and PAing is pretty grueling. And I also felt like a lot of the low budget stuff I worked on, I never read the script or whatever. And I kind of knew, I was like, this is not going to be good. You know what I mean? Or not no one's fault, but just there was problems. And I was like, if I can't control it in some way, not to sound like I'm a controlling person, because I'm absolutely not in that sense, but in the way that can I control the quality of it? If I can't control the quality, I just feel like I'm doing it for no reason. Now, if someone paid me a ton of money, of course I do some, cheesy action film or whatever. But when you're working low budget, it's just wow, I'm doing all this stuff, and it's probably not going to get marketed or something's missing or, so it's more like being able to control the quality. And then definitely just like, having this job, I do love producing. So like having that particular job and pre-production is my favorite. Absolutely. For sure.
Well, so with budgeting and such, I know that's kind of it's an art form within itself when it comes to putting a budget together on a film or a TV show. For you, like getting into it, like kind of firsthand with line producing and dealing with a budget that's like $50,000, that's pretty big, especially for your first time getting into it. Really, how did you go about that? Like, is there something that you read? Like, I have a lot of filmmakers that watch this, and I just ask to kind of give them guidance a little bit.
Yeah, well, I got a lot of. It wasn't so much reading. I did that too. Let me grab this book for you. The book that I think I originally read was, and somehow I just have it here, From Real to Deal. It's an old book by Dove Simmons. That was really good. Or Dove Simon. I definitely read that. But I got mentors. I found people that did what I wanted to do, and at least they had at least a few years of experience. And I just, asked them for a complete download. And I did that over and over and over. Also, we didn't have, we had this low budget, but we needed more than we had the budget for. So I started trading advertising off of, because the website was getting a ton of hits, because it was, even though it was not really Star Trek, they were still getting a lot of hits from the fans. And so I traded equipment for a banner ad on the website. And I just found all these creative ways to manage that, because there was definitely more than we needed for the 50,000. And I learned that as I went along and just kept on like grabbing things to trade. And so I just got really scrappy, but definitely the mentorship. And I still do that. Like even with this short, I haven't produced for a while. There's tons of people who have been saying like, oh, don't forget that. And you have to have a permit in LA if you shoot inside someone's house. It's not like that in Austin. At least I don't think, or I've never heard of that. There's things that are so like detailed that I may have missed, So.
Well, that's great advice. Firstly, thank you. But yeah, now with getting into Curiosity, and are you directing Curiosity as well, or you're just producing?
No, I'm producing. I wrote it, yeah. And so James Sunshine is the director.
Oh, okay. And so how we're getting into it, I'm sure you're in pre-production now, because you said March 6th and 7th you're going to start shooting, right?
Yeah.
How is that going? Like getting back into it with the producing and, it's your own story working with the director. How'd you guys meet and kind of come to do this?
Yeah. So originally, there was different iterations of this, but what it ended up being was I was going to originally shoot it in Austin with this awesome director here. Her name is Lisa Belcher. She's just like the bomb. She does great work and has won a ton of awards. But COVID had just started. And so we thought we were going to get like a ton of money and that we could fly the actors and all this stuff. And then it just like squashed it. And we couldn't get the story to line up the way that we wanted it. And it was just like one thing. And then all this time went by, and then Bob, and so John Lear is in it too. And he's my partner in the show, pitching the show. And so I felt like I was going to lose them if I didn't. So I just decided, we kind of parted ways, and that was fine because we were exhausted from it. I said, look, I'm just going to try and do this in Hollywood at like a really small budget. And with John Lear's people. And so James had just directed a movie called COVID Safer at Home with John starring in it. And I asked John, I was like, what do you think of James Sunshine? And he's like, oh my God, he's great to work with. And he's the best, he's super creative. And we just bonded immediately. And it had taken me previously, I'm not kidding, like 11 drafts of the short trying to pull it out of the pilot. I went like for 2.5 months. I started to develop a complex, like, am I a writer or is this a joke? I couldn't get it. And somehow with James and I synergy, I nailed it in 6 days. And that, I've never had that happen. So it really makes a difference when you have the right person that you're working with, the right kind of like you're jiving with them, and the same vision and everything. So that was how that started.
That's awesome. That's really cool to hear. So now so how many locations and such, when you go out to LA, are you looking at doing? Like, I know with COVID, there's a lot of, especially in Los Angeles, right now. Has that hindered like your locations, what you're going to do, or have you had to change things up at all?
Actually, it's funny you ask that because the biggest challenge we're having now is nailing down a location. I thought that would be the easiest thing. I was like, we're on Peerspace, but we're finding all these really great, beautiful locations, but the script takes place in kind of a low income. And there's different versions of it. Like we could do a trailer park or like kind of a lower income apartment. But yeah, we're still looking for a location. So I wouldn't say we're having trouble with it. I mean, we're still 6 weeks away and we have like a lot of good backups, but it has definitely become a challenge. Like that is the thing that has been the hardest, I think.
Okay. And are people, I'm not quite sure how everything's kind of opening back up out there. Are they being receptive at least and, being open to meeting or?
Oh, you cut out right when you asked that.
No, I was just wondering if like, I'm not quite sure how with everything going on out there, how people are they receptive to the locations and things like that? I know you said it was tough, but are you at least being able to look at what you want and maybe kind of nail down exactly what you're looking for?
Yeah. Oh, there's definitely options. It's just, there's a lot less. Like, I mean, it's hard to convince someone to use their house during this time, et cetera, because of, nobody wants a bunch of strangers in their house, but there's definitely options. We're just kind of looking for the perfect, we'd like it to be someone we know or a referral, just in case. It's just like, I think it's more my paranoia because I'm in Austin and of course I'm afraid I'm going to get out there. And it's going to be like, welcome to the jungle, like 3 days before. But I do have a co-producer out there that's helping me and he's going to, start looking at places and talking to people. And I know that if something went wrong, he would help me fix it. So.
Nice. Well, so to go back to the from where you started writing, you said that you'd taken about 11 drafts for Curiosity. 11,
yeah.
So when did you start writing it? How about, I know you said a few years ago, but.
Oh, right. I think I maybe I've sounded confusing there. So I started, the short / proof of concept is from the pilot, and the pilot is a whole nother thing that's like 40 pages long. And then I have a Bible as well. So I wrote that about 4 years ago. Over like a year period, I just kind of picked it up and put it down. Then I tried to sell it. And then I realized after talking to John, he said, I really want to help you pitch this as a show, but we really need a proof of concept to show Bob in the role. He says, I think that they'll go crazy if they see him in it, but we've got to see him in it. And so that started the whole conversation about the short.
Okay. So with that, like, I'm just wondering, like, with the 11 drafts, like, what comes about with that? Like, just as you're going through, like, how did you get to 11? Like, I understand it. Like, I mean, anytime you're writing, I definitely get why. But, like, I'm just wondering, like, what was your process like, how many drastic changes did you have to make?
Well, I think, so there was things that are, the issue was there's things in the original pilot that didn't transfer to the short. Like it didn't resonate with people. So in the pilot originally, the main character is in a hotel and he finds a crack in the wall of the hotel and he sees this girl like through the crack in the wall and he starts watching her, but he falls in love with her and he wants to help her. And she just happens to be a prostitute, but she's this really, really sweet girl. Never looks at her when her clients are there. Like it's not sexual at all. He just really like loves her and finds out like non-verbally he has a ton in common with her. When I tried to make that into a short, it just made him look like a peeping Tom because there's so much background as to why he spies on people that's like super heartwarming, but I couldn't fit it into the short. And so that was the first round of 3 or 4 drafts trying to like say, no, this guy's like just really curious. He's not a peeping Tom or whatever. And so that was that. And I think we did another round because of budget. But overall, I think that period of time when we were pulling the short out of the pilot, I had not written a short for like years. Like only one of my other scripts is a short. And I didn't realize how difficult it is to get all of that in such a short period of time. And so it became too formulaic. I was trying to follow like a formula as opposed to more writing like intuitively, which I do usually. I didn't start with that. I tried to do this formula that I read somewhere, and it just didn't work. But when I found a partner that, James and I started talking about, it just came out of nowhere because I started to remember why I wrote the pilot in the first place and it all came together. So it was just a matter of like my perspective about how I was doing it. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, in doing that though, like once you got to the final draft, you knew what you're doing. Like, what for you? Did you always know, like, I'm not directing this, or did you, like, in certain drafts or such, or as you were going along during the process, did you say, like, I know we talked about, like, meshing and finding James Sunshine along the way, but, like, when did you realize, like, okay, yeah, no, I'm not directing this. I wrote it. I want to produce it, and we're going to make this, kind of like bring on other directors?
For some reason, I've never had the want to direct. Like, I like the idea of giving it over to someone and seeing their vision of it. After Lisa and I split ways, I did think about doing it for a little while, but I was like, you know what, it's just too much for someone who's never directed before. Like, I don't really think in pictures like that. It just isn't, it's not intuitive to me. So I just immediately started looking for someone else.
Nice. Okay. I mean, yeah, that's always been like a big thing. And like for me is like, trust people to be creative, like people who let directors direct, let editors edit, like that's what they do. That's their profession, Where
it's fine. Yeah. I think it's a great thing. Obviously, if it's the right, if it's the right partnership, I think for sure.
Yeah. So with this, with Curiosity is coming up and, the last year, has there since everything was kind of shut down, what have you been working on towards it to, like, what have you been able to, I guess, work on towards it while things have been shut down, and you being in Austin and officially having to say, okay, we're going to go to LA. Is it, what's, I guess, the biggest challenges that you've been facing?
I think, well, first of all, I started from zero again. I decided to learn how to crowdfund. And I spent, I don't know, like over 200 hours learning how to crowdfund. And then I did the crowdfunding. That was insanity. I mean, you can imagine. And I didn't make the goal, but I ended up just getting a little bit of a windfall. And I was able to put some in myself. So that like saved it. But that was a whole month of just like 24/7, like pounding it. And then I pretty much after we decided not to do it in Austin, I was like, I have to start the crowdfunding campaign in 3 weeks or 4 weeks, because otherwise it's going to end over Christmas and it's not going to work. So I had to like jump in and do it. And then I started doing pre-production in the middle of the crowdfunding campaign, just a little bit here and there. But we've been kind of doing stuff out of order. Like, like I said, the location's been a big deal. A lot of people have come forward that are friends of, John's and Bob's. Like the DP is Mark Peterson. He's worked on 10 Items or Less with Bob and John, and he's worked on some other shows with them. And they're just the two of them have worked. Quick Draw, that's the name of the show. They've worked together for a long time, and they've built this group of friends around them that just love working with them because they're so fun and funny and just great to work with. And so all these people, I've had a lot of luck with crew and cast coming on just from knowing them. So that's been a lot of what I've been working on. And then I think besides the location, that's the only thing we're waiting on. I've decided to art direct with an art director named Ken Copland, who lives in Dallas. We're going to do that virtually, and I'm going to drag, here we go, right? I'm going to drag all the props to LA from Texas. I'm like, oh, brother. And they just keep getting bigger and bigger. I'm like, I know, what if we have this huge plant in the corner? And I'm like, oh, here we go. Like, how am I going to do this? Yeah, I like the nitty-gritty. But that's the part I love, the art direction and the rewriting. The creative stuff is. I'm really looking forward to getting more into that.
Nice. And so, how big of a crew do you guys have right now planned?
So we're going to have about 17 people a day on set. And that also includes like the health and safety supervisor for COVID. And that includes like the caterer. So I just count everyone. So altogether we're about 17 in any given day. And it's a two day shoot. And then we have like a 1 day of prep beforehand.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Okay. So, I'm not quite sure. Like, I know that, like you said, safety coordinators, things like that. How much now, with COVID, it goes into it? Like, is there a lot of paperwork to file? Is there, like, how does that kind of work out?
Well, there's different rules for different cities, but they're pretty much the same. We're lucky that we only have a 2 day shoot, because you do have to test every 3 days in LA. And so right before the shoot, we'll all take a COVID test. And obviously, hopefully be all negative. And then this health and safety supervisor, I don't exactly know what they do, but I think that they just enforce on set to make sure that people are staying far from each other when they need to, and using their masks and stuff, and washing their hands. Or I'm not exactly, it's a whole thing that I've been procrastinating trying to figure it out because it seems so boring. I know I have to, like, it's going to become an emergency like sooner than later. It's nobody really wants to go through this, but I want to make sure my people are safe, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. So for you, coming into it with curiosity, what are you what's the most exciting scene to shoot for you right now? Like, that you wrote, that like when you get to that day, you're like, yes, I cannot wait for this. I don't want you to give any spoilers or anything, but like.
Okay, I'm just thinking, most exciting scene. I would say that, so there's a montage at the beginning, and this doesn't give anything away, of Bob falling in love with this girl. And I just can't wait to see like the synergy between Bob Clendenin and Holly. Like, I think it's going to be amazing. Kirsten Gronfield is Holly. We just cast her 2 days ago, and she was in 10 Items or Less, and so was Bob. So they know each other, so it's even better. And he actually he jumped up and said, "Oh, you should really contact her." And she was like, "Yes, I really want to do it." So I think that seeing those scenes, there's a whole bunch of nonverbal stuff that happens. It's like really, I think, endearing, that I can't wait to see.
That's going to be awesome. So, I mean, it's such a fun concept. Like you said, it was so reading it off of the site earlier, it being about a mailman who leads a double life of spying. He was a wannabe detective that now feels he has to save the girl he loves. And so it's a very cool concept. I can see it being a really funny show for sure. Is this what you're going to use to pitch it around? I'm guessing is the short film.
Yeah. So like I said in the pilot, he's actually, or maybe I didn't say this, he's actually a janitor in the pilot, and he works at a hotel. But in the short, we changed it, and so I'm not sure how that works with the pitching part of it. But I think as long as they get the idea, because I wanted it to definitely be a short as well, so we could just in case nothing happens with the series. I mean, it's really hard to sell a series. Like, who knows? I didn't want to be stuck with just like a teaser. I wanted to be able to like bring it to festivals and stuff. So this is definitely going to represent that. We're hoping just to walk in, and John said, you just want to walk in and press play, and then we want to show that is exactly what we're trying to present. So.
So what's with everything going on, you're getting up. It's kind of like starting to get more and more fast paced. Like, what's the plan after? I know you said take it to festivals and such. So you're going to take it virtual, or if need be, or?
I'm not. So we're done in March, and I think the editors have regular like day jobs and stuff. So I think it's going to take a little bit to edit it. I'm not exactly sure how long. I'm hoping to be done sometime in April. And then I definitely want to take it to festivals. I mean, there's a festival here I love called the Austin Revolution Film Festival. I mean, I'm just like, I love that festival, and they're going to be, I think, actually in person next February of 2022. Love to take it to the Austin Film Festival. Always shooting high with the Oscar qualifying festivals. Hopefully, who knows, right? But I'm kind of at the point where it's like, once I get these big rocks done, like the location, and there's another casting issue and stuff, I feel like I can kind of look toward the marketing a little bit more. But right now I'm just like, I got to get the thing made first, sort of thing. But I definitely want to, I have a list of places I want to submit it to, and not so much interested in trying to sell it, more just as a representation of my work and others' work.
Well, I'll tell you right now, in Winchester, we have the great Skyline Indie Film Festival. So,
oh, nice.
I can go out and definitely check it out when it's in the festival circuit.
Awesome.
So with this going on, I mean, it's your baby. I want to promote it a bit. So, is there anything going on for fans they can go to other than the website? I will have everything in the descriptions, by the way, so you guys can all check it out. But is there anything like you want to tell them? Like, is there any kind of crowdfunding still going on, or anything like that, or any way we can support?
I would say probably the website's the best way to go. I mean, like, I'm not going to say I'll never need any more money. We're always still crowdfunding. It's actually funny you say that. Tiny little story. So I'm trying to get Emmett Walsh to be one of the extras, and his agent was like, no. When I offered him, like, not enough, clearly. And I thought, I could give someone an associate producer credit if they gave me $500, but she hasn't gotten back to me yet, to tell me if he's even going to look at me at all or anything. But yeah, no, jokes aside, we are pretty much funded, just, on all seriousness. And the website was done by the executive producer, Jen Hamilton, and she's just going to keep adding, and I'm going to start blogging. And I don't know when, but probably in the next week or two. I think it may be helpful for people to know what it's like to try and do this from afar in the middle of COVID. Hopefully I can keep people from making some of the mistakes that I've made.
Yeah, I love that too. So please, when you do that, if you don't mind, I would love to share it on the, share your blog on Scene Snob's social media, so that way people could see it.
Okay.
I mean, I think that's a big help for filmmakers in general. Just to kind of be able to read especially what's going on now, I think is the big thing. Like, a lot of people are kind of at a loss getting back into it, especially indie filmmakers.
Right.
So that would be fantastic. So I always like to kind of bring the interview to towards the end. I want to bring it to more of a fun little spot, and I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. One being, what are your top 5 remote dropper movies? That means if it's on, that remote is dropped, you're sitting there and you're watching that movie to the end.
Okay, top 5. Okay, some of these are old school. So Princess Bride, I love fantasies, is one of them, definitely. I would say anything like Baron Munchausen, those old, what is that filmmaker's name? Terry Gilliam movies?
Yeah, that's
Time Bandits. I'm so into those 80s movies, it's not even funny. I have now seen Knives Out 3 times. I'd probably see it 4 because I think that the writing is so brilliant.
Oh, yeah.
I'd have to think about a 5th one. What have I seen? I'll think about it, but I'm just blanking out. But those are probably the 4 for now.
So with writing, who are some of your big influences? Like maybe movies or writers themselves?
Yeah, I think so. I really like Alan Ball, who did 6 Feet Under. I mean, he's been a writer on it, but he's a producer as well. And that a lot of that show, I actually wrote not a pilot, but I wrote an episode of it a long time ago. That was the first thing I ever wrote, and I got really obsessed with that and his writing. And I thought that that was a huge influence on me. I would say, for the fantasy, because I write fantasies, kind of wacky type stuff, Terry Gilliam is definitely one of my favorite filmmakers and was a highly influenced in me in that way, for sure. So I think those are the 2.
Oh, that's awesome. Is there any movies, not remote dropper movies, but I know you said Terry Gilliam, that really stand out, are maybe some of your favorites? Mine is Back to the Future. I can watch that movie anytime. It's my go-to favorites of all time. But is there some that are some of your this is what
yeah. I love the movie What Dreams May Come. I think that's 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 my 5th one, absolutely, for sure. And I mean, Back to the Future, I mean, all of those are those adventure movies that are really just really pure, Goonies, another one. Those are and I watch so much TV now. It's movies to me are what? I barely, but when you say remote drop or stuff that I'm really in love with, it just goes back, years and years and years, for sure.
Are there any TV shows that you recommend right now that you're binging?
Let's see. I've been watching True Detective, but I think most people have already seen most of that. But I'm watching season 3 of that. Definitely Cobra Kai. I went nuts on that. And then, the Star Wars series, there's a controversy. I'm not a Star Wars fan. I mean, I like it. I'm not a super fan. And the writing wasn't that great, but I just love the idea of it, the concept of it. I think that was really, really fun. And I tried to watch West Wing. Everybody keeps saying, you didn't watch West Wing, but I just can't get into it. I don't know if it's too old school for me. I just can't get it. I get it, but I don't I'm just not. I keep forgetting about it. It's oh yeah, that, I'm I'll stop in the middle and not even remember what I was watching. So forget that.
It's very slow paced. So, I mean, I understand, my wife was doing a watch of it and I had seen it when it was on TV. and she's watching it, and I was like, I loved this show when it was on, but I was like, but it's really slow.
It's slow. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. That's it. You nailed it there.
I need a Cobra Kai. If I'm going to binge, I need something like that just to kind of like keep me going. Well, I mean, it's been so much fun talking to you and very enlightening, especially to learn more about producing and especially what's going on today. So I thank you so much for that information. Is there anything else, like any advice you would give to indie filmmakers out there getting into the business that maybe you've learned along the way?
I would say for me, when I left Hollywood, there was a part of me that kind of gave up a little bit. I got frustrated, even though I was writing in between and building another career. But I would say, if I had two pieces of advice, one of them would be go faster. And another one would be, if you can't do it one way, just find another way, because it eventually happens. I mean, this is something I've been trying to do for years. And 5 million times I was like, this is impossible. And then it just kept being possible because I never gave up on it. So I know everyone always says never give up, but really it's true. Like if you just keep finding the next way and you just keep, busting forward, it'll happen for sure.
Absolutely. That's great advice just for life in general, but as a filmmaker, 100%. And I want to thank you. Thank you, Tosh, for being on the show. Everybody, Tasha Hardy, writer, producer, her new movie, Curiosity, is being filmed in March and will be out later this year. So make sure you're checking it out. So go to curiositythefilm.com, see how you can support along the way, and just keep on top of it, because I'm feeling it's going to be a really good one.
Thanks, Mick. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tasha. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And that's our show, everybody. Thanks for listening. I am Mick Manhattan, the Scene Snob. We always appreciate you guys tuning in and commenting along and everything else. Go check out this show or any of our other shows on thescenesnobs.com. Thescenesnobs.com. We love you. You guys are awesome. And if you would like, follow and subscribe to our social media. That really helps us go a long way. And please spread the word. Tell your friends. Have them come in. We love feedback and everything else. So everybody, you have a great day. Again, thanks for listening. Thescenesnobs.com. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.